America, welcome back. I'm Dale Campbell. I'm with my buddy Cliff Bloddick. Look, we've been away for a few days. He's upgrading some techniques and everything, and I've been out of town. We got a good episode for you this evening. Hit the subscribe button, go to the comments, pick up that book, Plant Based, Power to Thrive. Whatever you got going on, it's going to help you inspire yourself, because that's why I say Power to Thrive, because it's going to empower you to get through whatever you need to get through. With that being said, we're going to get this episode started. Let's go, Cliff.
In today's episode, we're going to be talking about diabetes. Diabetes is almost 100% preventable in the first place. Before the modern diet, the type of food we're eating today, before the modern diet, like 200 years ago, diabetes was damn near unheard of. People never had to worry about diabetes. It was just not even an issue. Today, you got everybody running around checking their A1C level and all this stuff. 100 years ago, nobody knew what an A1C was. This is all because of the garbage food we're eating, the modern diet. Without the modern diet, not only diabetes, but most forms of cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, all this stuff, autoimmune diseases, lupus, these are what's called diet-related chronic diseases. Diabetes is right there at the head of the pack as far as diet-related chronic diseases. You can avoid getting it in the first place, but the thing that they usually don't tell you, when you go in there and you are diagnosed with pre-diabetes or diabetes, they'll tell you that you need to start eating a little bit better and that you need to work on your diet. What they should tell you is that you need to completely abort your diet and leave it behind and go plant-based, and then almost every time the diabetes will go away. If it's type 2 diabetes in 95% of the people and you change to a strict plant-based diet, that type 2 diabetes will first go into remission and then disappear. It'll cure it. And they're not pushing this because this is such a lucrative business. If you think of the amount of money that's made from the medical companies and the healthcare industry and the pharmaceutical companies on Ozempic and insulin and the doctor's visits, it's staggering, the hundreds of billions of dollars they're raking in from diabetes. And then you were telling me about some kind of new thing now. What were you saying, Dale?
It's called Lindo, where you put this patch or whatever you call it on your arm, and supposedly it'll tell you whatever you ate was good or not, or healthy, or whatever the case may be.
So apparently, this is a technology that's developed by this company that also makes another product called Freestyle Liber. And the Freestyle Liber version is used by diabetics and is paid for by your healthcare. Then the Lingo is the free version. And so you pay for Lingo out of your pocket. Both of those devices are based on the same technology, and what they consist of is this small device that's the size of 2 quarters stacked together with some adhesive and a little probe that goes into your skin, and you slap it on your arm, on the back of your arm, under your clothing, and put this thing on there, and then through Bluetooth it talks to your phone. And what it does is it gives a continuous feed on what your glucose levels are. And then it'll tell you if you ate a donut, it'll tell you, okay, that made your glucose levels go up, and then you can see it. Okay, so if you read about a plant-based diet and you understand what that is, and then you read about the modern diet with refined carbohydrates and processed foods, and you know what that is, you shouldn't need some sort of electronic device to tell you that when you eat a donut, it's going to make your blood sugar level go up. I don't know why on earth you would need a device to tell you that. At the same time, if you can't get it through your head that eating a donut or eating white bread or eating cake or eating candy or pudding or any of this other stuff that has high sugar levels in it, if you can't get it through your head that this is going to cause your blood sugar to rise, the cost of one of these devices, even if you have to pay for it in the Lingo version, may not be a bad idea. If it can get you to understand that, so you stop doing it, then yeah, by all means, it costs about $100. I believe it's about $100 a month for the Lingo version. It's like $50 every 2 weeks. And the version that's paid by your healthcare, if you have diabetes, that one's 50% more than the version that you get if you're paying out of pocket. Anyway, so they're gouging the health insurance companies, of course. But if that's what it takes to get your mind wrapped around that bad food makes your blood sugar go up.
I got a question. How much do America know about the difference between a modern diet and a plant-based diet? Because it's two different things. Do they actually understand the significance between both of them?
Not only do they not know pretty much, but most people don't want to know because they're holding on to their sacred food that they love. So it's almost like a religion or something. If you were worshiping some sort of satanic deity and somebody came along and said, oh, by the way, that's not healthy, you're worshiping the devil, maybe you shouldn't do that. Most people, if they were, would probably reject that idea and say, oh no, that can't be the case. I'm not worshiping the devil. And then they would reject you, and then it wouldn't be until after they were forced to start sacrificing family members or something crazy or turning into a pedophile or something. Then they might say, oh, now I see it. But that's the same thing as the diet. Most people that are eating their way into oblivion with their diet, they're committing suicide by food, they reject that idea and they don't want to hear it. And only when they're in dire consequences do they start being opened. And some people go all the way to the grave talking about they don't want to hear it and that they're going to eat whatever they eat and they just can't step away from it. It's like some sort of drug addiction. Food addiction is like a drug addiction. So they're basically food crackheads is what I call it.
Let me ask you something. When you say modern diet, what is the significance? The modern diet is what?
Primarily processed foods and factory farm animal products, which factory farm animal products are a type of processed food because factory farm animal products are fed processed animal food. Because that's what they eat, they become a processed food at that point. Because you are what you eat to a large extent, biologically. And 99% of all meat you buy at the store is processed meat. It's factory farm animal product. And the whole grass-fed and free range and all that's marketing garbage. Very, very small amounts of the meat is actually free range. They say that because people like to hear it. It makes them feel good. I could still eat this and it's going to be okay for me. Newsflash, no it isn't. They're lying to you. And free range means that they let the animal out of the cage for possibly 1 minute. Legally, it can mean 1 minute in its lifetime. And then they can say, oh, it's free range.
Let me say this right quick. So what we're saying is basically a modern diet leads you more to being a diabetic than a plant-based diet.
A plant-based diet does not lead you to be a diabetic because a plant-based diet is what we're made to eat. So it does not cause diabetes. The modern diet does cause diabetes flat out. It also causes these other chronic diseases like heart disease, Alzheimer's, osteoporosis, heart disease, and all these different forms of cancer. So the question with the modern diet isn't whether it causes diabetes or not. Which of these diet-related diseases are you going to get first? That's the only question. Are you going to get cancer before the diabetes gets you? Or are you going to get heart disease first? Or are you going to get diabetes first? And is that going to kill you? So that's the big question, is which one are you going to get first? Most Americans have more than one form of chronic disease. And it's all based on the modern diet. None of these diseases are prevalent in people that have a plant-based diet. But there's no time too soon to get a plant-based diet. The second you get a plant-based diet, your body's going to try to repair the damage. So it makes no sense not to do it. Even if you're 70 or 80, a plant-based diet is highly beneficial because the second you go on a strict plant-based diet, your body's going to start trying to repair itself because your body wants to be free of these diseases. And your diet is what's throwing a wrench in the whole thing.
So French fries, chicken nuggets, cheeseburgers, etc. is not plant-based at all.
That's all cancer food, heart disease food. And kids are getting heart disease and cancer now.
But let me ask you something. When you say the foods we just named are cancer foods, what do you think people say when you say cancer foods? I go to McDonald's every day or every other day and get some for my kids. Are they aware of what the consequences
I think they don't want
are
to
of
be.
that food?
Maybe when they hear it, that for that 30-second or 60-second period of time, or maybe they think about it for about 5 minutes. Then they do something called cognitive dissonance. And if you study the psychology behind it, it's where they compartmentalize. So they put the information that they heard in one box up here. And then they have their normal box that they live in mentally, psychologically, over here. And so the box over here says that it's okay to eat McDonald's food all the time, and the box over here says McDonald's food is going to cause cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. And so they put these things in a separate box, and then they try to shut this box and think about it as little as possible. Just keep that one closed, because that's too disturbing, because that would necessitate that we change our entire lifestyle and the food we eat. So we're going to acknowledge, okay, yeah, that makes sense, and then close it up, put it over here, and then out of sight, out of mind. And then we're going to live our life in this box over here, where we ignore all that. Cognitive dissonance, look it up. That's basically what it is.
So where do we go to our kids? McDonald's is not the place to go to eat, to whereas they've been raised all their life thinking that it is.
Part of it's school. The school lunches are atrocious, so they'll teach a little bit of nutrition in school. And then they're telling the kids one thing, and then they go to the cafeteria and they're seeing something completely the opposite. The kids, they're confused at that point. That's like a chain smoking parent telling their kid, don't smoke is bad for you. Meanwhile, they're chain smoking. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it?
It's crazy.
It is. And that's basically what they're seeing with their parents and their schools and everything else. Most parents will try to talk to the kids like that's really going to do something. On the way to McDonald's, they're telling them, oh, this McDonald's food is not very good. We're not going to do this every day. But then they're taking them there every other day. And they're constantly talking about, oh, we should cut down on this. But they're still doing it. And then the kids just scream because they're kids, because they say, all our friends went to McDonald's. We want Mickey D's. We want Mickey D's. And they're in the back of the car just screaming, wanting Mickey D's. And the parents just don't have the strength to tell the kids, no, we're not doing that. And there are some families where they just refuse to do it. Not many, though. And they cartoonize this stuff, like Ronald McDonald and the Burger King clown idiot, all
Jack in
of
the
them,
Box.
the Taco Bell dog, and they personify and anthropomorphize and make it accessible like it's some kind of cartoon stuff. But chronic disease in teenagers, that's not cartoon stuff. That's real.
When you talk about people being diabetics, what's a normal age? Is it teenagers, youth, or just grown people that get that's a diabetic, depending on how you eat? How do you explain that?
The worse you eat, the faster it'll come. So it's just a ticking time bomb. And so if you eat a half bad diet, then you may not get diabetes. You may just get cancer at 70 or 80 or something like that. If you eat a worse diet, then you may get any of these diseases earlier in your 40s or 50s. American diet is getting progressively worse and worse. So the way these kids are eating now, it's hitting them as teenagers or below, or in their early 20s. That means that they're basically eating toxic garbage. They might as well be eating out of a dumpster as far as the nutritional value of the food they're eating. I know kids that the majority of their diet is pizza. And I'm not talking about good pizza either. I'm talking about the grocery store pizza or Pizza Hut or Domino's and all that garbage. And this is what they eat. Like 50% of the entire food they eat is pizza, which is one of the worst things you can eat because of the huge amount of cheese on it. And it's really sad because you talk about it and you talk about it and you just get this blank look.
Is there any healthy pizza at all?
It's possible at home. I've made healthy pizza, but it's not even recognizable as pizza to somebody that normally eats pizza.
Okay.
It's so different because if you make it with totally whole food ingredients, with no oil, no cheese, and all that
People
stuff.
don't eat it. So let me ask you
Because
this.
of the-
You got these olives, you got mushrooms, you got all these extra things going on a pizza. Does that make it healthy?
That's like putting lipstick on a pig. If you put lipstick on a pig, does it make it look pretty? Do you want to go kiss it? It's better than not having the lipstick. That's a good question, though.
That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, it changes very little because you got a huge amount of cheese. You got the crust, which is totally processed flour.
So
Dressing on it,
basically
that's all.
we're saying Domino's, whatever pizza place you are, there is actually no healthy pizzas being made as we speak.
No, it's all garbage. It all produces chronic disease. All the people that do the chemotherapy and the diabetes insulin and the tests and the blood pressure medications and all the pharmaceuticals, the pizza place, that's their best friend. They love it. It's a symbiotic relationship between the healthcare industry and the food industry. The food industry loves it because it's addictive and it's a lot cheaper to make than Whole Foods are. The main reason is that Whole Foods are not that expensive when you make them at home, but they can't make them in a factory.
So everything we just talked about basically leads up to people becoming diabetics.
That's right. Everything we just talked about. It's directly a funnel into diabetes. It's like having a revolver with 6 chambers,
Yes, sir.
and then I go and I take the diabetes bullet and I load it into the revolver. And then I got the heart disease bullet and I put it in there. I got the osteoporosis bullet, I put it in there. I got the Alzheimer bullet, I put it in there. I got the cancer bullet. And then you spin it,
Right.
and then you say, boom. And it's the luck of the draw, which one you're going to get.
Say you're in your 60s and you hadn't really been eating healthy, right? How much difference,
Your body-
how much longevity would that provide for you after the fact?
It's a coin flip, 50-50.
50-50?
Depends on the damage you did. You can't tell the exact odds. It varies depending on your body condition and a million other things. So as a rule of thumb, I would just call it a coin flip where you got a 50-50 chance instead of a damn near zero chance.
Right. One quick question before we go. How much water consumption plays being in a healthy diet?
Aggravating factor is what you call it. If you're going to get diabetes and you're chronically dehydrated, it'll make it come faster. If you don't get enough sleep, it's another aggravating factor. It will make you get all these things faster. If you have chronic stress, that'll bring on these chronic diseases faster than they would ordinarily. All these things are aggravating factors. Learn what the aggravating factors are. High salt intake, chronic lack of sleep, chronic stress, lack of the correct amount of water. Make sure you're not doing yourself in with any of these aggravating factors. That's it.
Okay, buddy, we're running out of time on this episode. You got any closing thoughts?
Yeah, again, the book Plant-Based goes into all this stuff. So if you want to go plant-based the right way, get the book Plant-Based. The print edition is $20. I'm going to put a link in the description. You can go right to Amazon and order it. And the electronic version is $9. And then you just walk through what it tells you to do. You can make a huge improvement or completely cure diabetes. It makes no sense not to do it. Who wants to live in misery with these chronic diseases?
And you don't have to.
And you don't have to. And the reason why you got these chronic diseases 95+% of the time, it's not because of genetics, it's because of your diet. The modern diet is just sabotaging yourself. And so if you stop sabotaging yourself, you give your body the food that it needs to repair itself, your body wants to do the right thing. So it's up to you.
America, we're about to make it pop or pop off. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Go to the bell, hit that subscribe button. Go to our comments, let us know what you think. Good night.
Night.